Welcome to this short tutorial on making kitchari, which is one of my favorite subjects because kitchari is one of my daily kinds of foods that I eat several times a week at least, sometimes more often. I find kitchari because of the very sattvic quality of the grains and the legumes, and especially the spices. Sattvic quality means kind of spiritually uplifting and balancing, to be really, really helpful, not just for digestion, but also for peace of mind. And just the simplicity of it just makes it a really easy thing to do under stress or at any time when you just want to feel good and feel grounded. Now, it's not a super high protein food, so sometimes for me, kitchari is not enough on its own, but for doing a cleansing or for a quick lunch or dinner, it's a really, really good option. So kitchari basically consists of a grain and a legume. And the traditional grain in kitchari is rice, actually white and often basmati rice. I used to get real creative with this and use quinoa and millet and buckwheat, because these are all very alkaline grains, and you can certainly do that, and that way you'll get more fiber and stuff like that. But for some reason, there's something very special about using white basmati rice, and even in the Weston Price teachings, it's shown that traditional cultures usually eat white rice, even though, we think, well, the fiber is important and that sort of thing, and the B vitamins that you're losing. But white rice is just very soothing and very digestible. So you can consider, whatever you think might be best for your system. Rice is associated with the moon. And, of course, the white rice, even more with the moon. So it's got that sattvic moon-like quality, spiritually uplifting, refined moon-like quality. So these days I'm using a lot more of the white rice, I must admit, which is the traditional grain to use. And the legume is generally, the most common one is split mung beans, which are called Moong Dal. And got all my little jars here, just a minute. So here's a jar of split Moong Dal. It's yellow in color, and it's when you take a mung bean of some sort and you split it and take the skins off, this is what you end up with. And this is like the favorite food, especially in North India, to use for kitchari. And it's very easy to digest, and there's something very nice about it. If you cannot find split mung beans, you can use whole mung beans, but they take a lot longer to cook. And I would suggest soaking them over at least overnight, or possibly sprouting them. And you can make very delicious sprouted kitchari if you like that kind of thing. So that's an option. Although if you can get the split Moong Dal, I was really amazed to find out that at the discount grocery store up in Ashland, Oregon, Shop and Cart has it in bulk, and I actually in organic in bulk. So I bought a 25-pound bag there after scouring the everywhere trying to find it up here in Northern California. So it's sometimes available, especially Indian markets, and of course best to get organic if you can. This is Urudal, which is a little bit bigger than Moong Dal in terms of size, so it takes a little bit longer to cook. It's also a light yellow, and this is another name for Urudal is pigeon peas. And these are also split, and then the skins are taken off, so it's very easy to digest. And in South India, this is the staple legume, and especially is known for making a dish called sambar, but you can also, of course, use it for making kitchari. And Urudal is especially good if you have an excess of kapha dosha, which is kind of like the water element and the phlegm element. So, you know, I'm not really going to go into all the Ayurvedic terminology, but more sluggish, easy to gain weight, kind of bloated, that sort of thing. Urudal is considered a good option for that. Another kind of dal, and tur dal, not so easy to get outside of Indian markets, so probably need to go to an Indian market. This is Urudal, which is also known as black Urudal. It's black on the outside when it doesn't have its skin on it, but it's very, very white. I don't know if you can see the color. The other two dals were quite yellow, but this one is white and kind of shiny. And this one is considered to be good for Vata constitution. Vata is wind, so if you have trouble sleeping and kind of it's a tendency toward dryness and anxiety and things like that, Urudal can be a good choice if you can get it from an Indian market. And all of these dals, the dals I've mentioned so far, you can cook in an Instapot very, very quickly, like within three minutes in an Instapot, they'll be cooked, except of course, the whole mung bean, which could take longer depending on, you know, how long you soak it or if you sprout it. But finally, here's a dal called Chana Doll. And Chana Doll is actually a kind of small garbanzo bean. And the really unique thing about Chana Doll is that it has the lowest glycemic index of any legume. So diabetics really go for Chana Doll. And again, it's not something easy to get. As a replacement, you could possibly use garbanzo beans, but again, they would take a lot longer to cook. Chana Doll in my Instapot takes a good, 50 minutes if it's not soaked. If it is soaked, it might take, about half that, but it takes a lot longer to cook, much more similar to a garbanzo bean. So it is good to soak ahead of time. Or, as I said, a replacement could be perhaps sprouted garbanzo beans. But this is a little different. It's a smaller bean, actually. But I really like it. I like the taste. And garbanzo beans are associated with the planet Jupiter because they look like little brains, and Jupiter is about wisdom and knowledge. So I really like all of these dals, and it's nice to kind of alternate between them if you can get yourself to an Indian market, and especially get the organic ones and stock up on some of these. Those are some of your alternative legumes. And then grains, of course, I mentioned alkalinizing grains. If you want to use, instead of the white rice, you could possibly go for one of buckwheat, millet, and quinoa are the three most alkalinizing, healthy grains that you could combine. So basically what you're doing, as I said, is you're combining a grain and a legume, which really beefs up the protein, kind of makes a complete protein, and you're also adding spices that have antioxidant effects and also help your digestion and cleanse your system. So now that I've kind of covered the grains, I'll talk about ghee, because oil or ghee is what really makes everything hold together in a flavorful way. And the technique that we use in cooking dal is what's called tempering, which I'll explain in a minute. But I make my own ghee. It's quite expensive if you buy it, and it may not be as good, but what you can do, this is all Instapot based that I'm talking about, is you can take 4 chunks of Kerrygold unsalted butter, and then put them in your Instapot and press saute. And believe it or not, what will happen is the butter will, it will start to melt, and then the milk solids will eventually go to the bottom, and it'll be kind of bubbling and boiling. And you want to make sure that it kind of smells a toasty, but not burnt, because you can burn your ghee, and I've done it. But I haven't done it in my Instapot. I've made ghee in a lot of different ways, including in the oven and traditionally on the stovetop. And I haven't found as easy a way to do it, but in the Instapot. I'm sorry to be an advertisement for the Instapot, but it really does make great kitchari and great ghee. So anyway, you know, probably around 15 minutes after it melts is about the time, somewhere 13, 15, 17 minutes. You want to keep an eye on it and don't stir it or anything. But what you'll see is that the milk solids go to the bottom, and there'll also be sometimes a little crusty stuff at the top. And then it'll kind of turn a golden color and start smelling kind of toasty, kind of roasty, kind of like popcorn or something like that. At that point, you want to take it off, you know, take it out actually, because the problem is if you keep it on there, it's going to keep getting hot. So you actually want to remove the Instapot insert and then strain it into a jar, you know, through a few layers of cheesecloth or, you know, a pillowcase, you know, some kind of cotton or something. You just want to you want to drain it through something, and those milk solids, those toasted milk solids at the bottom are really yummy. They taste kind of like cheese. They're totally delicious. So you can do something with that too. All right, so that's ghee. And I'm going to show you one more kind of exotic ingredient, which is Asafoetida powder called hing. And this is, again, something you would get at a Indian grocery, but it really makes all the difference. In traditional Sattvic kind of cooking, onions and garlic are not used. They're considered to be rather tamasic and bring a lower level of energy. But hing has similar qualities. It's extremely pungent. And in fact, it's hard to know where to store it in your house because it's such a strong odor, similar to our onions and garlic, but again, really delicious and just combines so beautifully with the other Ayurvedic spices. So getting some hing is a good idea. It comes in these little jars. Very good for digestion. And homeopathy, it's Asafoetida is the common name. Hing is the Hindi name, I guess, but Asafoetida is a homeopathic remedy for digestion. So I actually knew about it as a homeopath before I knew about it as an ingredient in food. Okay, so we've gone over our ingredients, and then we'll talk about, I'll just describe. I'm not going to do like a cooking show and show you, but I will describe what I do. Okay, so what and I'll give you the recipe. The spice, if you wanted to make, well, this would make about 4 servings, and I actually I like it fresh. I find that when it sits, it kind of absorbs a lot of water and the texture is not as nice. So you might want to reduce this recipe if you're cooking for yourself, because this will make about, like I said, about 4 servings, or just, you know, have it and make 2 servings and eat it, you know, within 24 hours. Another principle of Ayurveda is not to eat a lot of leftovers. And I have found specifically with Kitchari, I really love it, you know, when it's fresh, but then when I put it in the fridge and warm it up, I'm not so crazy about it second time around. I do make myself eat it because it's hard to make just the right amount, but I like it best when it's really, really fresh, and that is an Ayurvedic principle. So the spices are pretty easy to get. You would use a teaspoon of mustard seed, a teaspoon of cumin seed, a teaspoon of turmeric, so these are all just 1, 1, 1, and a teaspoon of coriander powder. And you could also add some fennel, maybe half a teaspoon of fennel seed if you like fennel. I like fennel, and it adds a lot for digestion. So those are the spices. And then if you have it, fresh ginger root, a few slices of that, or you can use powdered ginger in its place, maybe a teaspoon of that. So the first thing you do is you turn your Instapot onto saute, the saute function, and then you add to it maybe 2 to 3 tablespoons of ghee, depending on how much you like ghee. And then when the ghee is hot, you put the spice mix into the ghee and fry it for just a few moments. You don't want it to burn, but you do want the seeds. It's nice to see that the seeds are kind of dancing around a little bit and even popping a little bit. So that's what's called tempering. It actually you're roasting the spices, which gives it a whole incredible flavor. And you're also, of course, flavoring the ghee. And then after that time, which may just be, I don't do it for very long, maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds max. I just kind of watch it. And then when I feel like it's really hot and really roasted and smelling roasted, I add the rice and the dal. And for this recipe, we would be talking about a cup of rice to a half cup of dal. And you can wash, I don't generally wash the dal first, it's already been split. You can wash the rice first if you want. Some grains like quinoa, when it comes, when I get the organic quinoa from Costco, it says right on it, washing not necessary, because it's already, been cleaned. So up to your own standards, whether you feel like you need to wash it or not. But so after you've roasted the spices in the dal, you then add the rice and a cup of rice and a half cup of your beans, legumes, whatever you're using. So it's good to have all that pre-measured ahead of time. So you've got a little cup where you've measured in your various spices, and then you've got another little cup that has your rice, and then another little cup that has your legumes. And then, because when you put the ghee in, you want to just do it all quickly, roast the spices, then add the legumes. And then you add the water. And for this amount of grain and legume, you add 6 cups of water, because we've got 1.5 cups of grain and legume. So it's about 1 to 4. The ratio is 1 to 4 of grain, legume to water. So in this case, 6 cups of water. And the asafoetida, you can actually add while you're roasting things. I should have probably mentioned it there, but you can also sprinkle it in at this point. I don't think it's that important that it gets roasted. And then you put your top on your Instapot and choose the bean setting and cook it. If you're using Moong Dal or one of the smaller split dals that I talked about, Moong Dal, Urudal, though Urudal you could do a few extra minutes, it's a little bigger, or Urudal. Moong Dal and Urudal with rice, 3 or 4 minutes is going to do it. If you want to be really careful, do it for 4 minutes. Maybe with the Urudal, 5 or 6 minutes. Oh, and I forgot an important thing. I should have written this all down. Vegetables. You can chop up vegetables, green beans, zucchini, anything you want, carrots, and chop up the vegetables and add them, when you add the water as well. Anything that's going to cook in that amount of time. And pretty much any vegetable, if you chop it thinly enough, it's going to cook within those, 4 minutes. So this way you really have a one-pot meal. So add 1 or 2 cups of chopped vegetables to this, and that'll make it even healthier and a good way to eat your vegetables. And then, put the top on, seal it, and put it in for, let's say, 4 minutes. And then you may need to do a little bit of natural pressure release for 15 minutes or so afterwards. Depends on how full your Instapot is. If it's not very full, you can open it pretty quickly. But if it's pretty full, it's going to make a big mess if you try to open it too soon. So you may have to wait and add that in terms of your waiting time. Once it beeps and tells you that it's cooked, don't open it for 15 or 20 minutes. And then just add the salt. As much salt as you like. You know, for that amount, you would probably need at least a teaspoon of salt, maybe more. But anyway, that's it. And the beauty of the Instapot is you can make it and set it and forget it. And, you know, so you can make it, if you're busy, just put it all together. It takes, you know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most to chop the vegetables, measure everything, get it in the Instapot, and then it's just sitting there waiting for you because it'll turn itself on warm. And it's waiting for you when you're ready to eat. So that is my download on Kitchari.
Thank you. It sounds delicious.
Good. Do you have any questions?
No, your instructions flowed very nicely. So,
Well, I hope you enjoy it, and let me know how it turns out for you, because it is really a nice healing food in my experience. So
I think I'm going to try to make some over the weekend.
Oh, good. Okay. All
Thanks,
right.
Angela.
Take care.